A wildly inappropriate relationship between a much older man and a younger girl turns abusive, and before anyone could intervene, it was too late. This is another crucial example of how important it is to check in on loved ones and never give up when you have a bad feeling.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to True Crime Banter, the podcast aimed at bringing you your dose of murder relaxation. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode. Newborn.
What does that even mean?
I don't know. I just feel abnormal.
I need more cowbell.
More cowbell. You're gonna wake up and put on gold diapers. Hello, everybody, and welcome.
Almost the line.
Almost something like that. Welcome to another episode of the True Crime Banter podcast, the podcast that keeps you waiting and waiting and waiting.
Yes.
Waiting,
For far
not
too long
waiting in the
sometimes.
water.
Apologies, but also hello.
Yes, yeah. We're back, and I'm feeling good about this.
Yeah.
I feel like we're gonna slingshot into a lot of episodes coming up.
I sure hope so. I don't want to make any promises or sign any dotted lines, but yeah.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of home renovation stuff. It's been keeping us pretty busy, and also we work. So that happens. But
also, too, I feel like we moved into this place so fast that we didn't really we kind of skipped the whole, purging process, getting rid of stuff.
Yes.
We kind of did, but,
it feels
we
good,
didn't organize any of
but
it. It's just been, boxes of stuff kind of
sitting there,
hiding and, ignoring it.
Eventually we're going to get to that box.
Yeah,
and
so
then,
we had to.
And then we did. So
and
there
then
we
we
are.
just kept doing stuff like that. And
Yeah.
then we didn't do this
And here we are now, not doing that stuff.
Yeah.
And doing this instead now.
I
So
feel like once we start doing it, we'll be like, oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh,
yeah,
and doing it mediocre. Is that what we say?
Riding a murder bike. Yep.
That's right.
Just like riding a murder bike.
I've got some banter for us today, but before we do, I want to get. We're almost at 200 subscribers on YouTube. We are one away. We're at 199.
Okay.
And if anybody out there hears that and thinks,
And is
I'm
going
to be the 200 subscriber, do it. And then if there's anybody out there I'm going to prevent them from getting to 200, so I'm going to unsubscribe. Fuck you.
I would not have even thought of that. That's your cynical
That's what
mind over there.
I choose to do to some people.
Okay.
Anytime they're getting ready to celebrate a milestone,
That's
I
so
just rain on
sweet.
their parade.
Is that why we haven't been recording? You've been too busy raining on parades out there.
I'm a rainer.
Trading one hobby for another.
What I was saying though is obviously very close to 200 subscribers on YouTube, one away, and we did get a few comments that it's been a month since the last time we recorded, I feel like. So on the first comment I've got here is Collie Coniglieta.
Beautiful.
Something like that. She commented on the Daniel Wozniak, so the very first episode.
Okay.
And she said, or he, no, it's a she.
Okay.
He was my friend. It still makes me want to throw up.
Wow.
Yeah, that's.
Okay.
And that did not
Shout
happen
out
very
to
long
you.
ago. That was 5 years ago that happened. So.
Oh my God.
A little weird.
So yeah, she's still healing from that, I'm sure.
Yes.
Wow.
The next comment is from Anthony Strain, and he commented on the last episode we recorded, Megan Huntsman.
Oh.
And if you guys can't remember because it's been so damn long, in that bit of banter, I talked about how I was listening to a podcast about the Laguna Beach recap with Steven and Kristen.
Kristen Cavallari, yeah.
And I think I called it Back to the Beach. No, I called it Back to the Beginning. It's called Back to the Beach, the podcast is.
Okay, but you called it Back to the Beginning?
I called it Back to the Beginning.
Okay.
And Anthony Strain on YouTube commented, OMG, Back to the Beach. Huge Laguna Beach fan and the Hills fan. 4 hearts. I give Riley props, though, so I got props.
Oh, well, if Anthony said so.
Yeah,
Okay.
he said I got the first line of Hillary Duff's song "Come Clean Correct," which is the opening song for that show. Love you both, and then a little like heart emoji and stuff. And so, thank you, Anthony. That was,
it was probably only like 6 months ago that I realized that was Hillary Duff like intro.
Oh, in that song.
Because when I grew up, I never really watched it. Like every now and then I'd see an episode, but I definitely did not watch it enough to know the characters' conflicts and stuff like that.
Right.
And the relationships and the cliques and whatever. I just knew like these were blonde rich people
right,
that
just
lived
enjoying
on
life
the beach and
clearly,
stuff.
yeah.
But I didn't even think about that was Hillary Duff. I don't know.
I don't think she was in the show though. It was just her song.
Right.
Yeah.
But I just never
Put it together.
even though when I listen to the song outside of the show, I know exactly who it is, but for some reason in the show,
during
I'm
the
like,
opening, you're like,
it just sounds like sound.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like, oh, here comes the rich people.
I don't
again.
know. Yeah, maybe I just always fast forwarded it. I don't know.
And then the last comment I have from YouTube is from, I like this name, Damp Donuts.
Oh,
And it's
that
on-
triggered something immediately in my
like-
stomach.
like
That was
the-
so
like,
weird.
Never mind.
Yeah, just go.
Yeah, they commented on the Hinterkaifeck murders, episode
Oh.
26, for those of you who
Another Christian
haven't caught up
episode.
yet. And they just said, very cool. This is a fascinating case. I love the setup.
Okay.
So thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah. Now, for the bit of banter.
Okay.
Oh, also, before we get into the bit of banter,
Yes.
if anybody wants to leave a comment, obviously go to YouTube or
Yes.
get shouted out. We're going to try to do a little more shout outs, I think, on the next
Yeah, on the next
microdose,
one.
probably.
I'm going to gather a few more.
Yeah, because it's definitely been a while.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of comments saying, when are you guys going to be uploading?
Yeah,
and
we
so
had
we
some
definitely
private
want to give you
messages
guys
too.
Yeah.
Super nice, you guys. And so I just basically was just like, yeah, we're still alive. Don't worry.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. We haven't
still
been
kicking over
a
here.
case.
Yeah.
So, but what I was gonna say was, you can follow us on Instagram at True Crime Banter,
Yeah.
YouTube True Crime Banter Podcast, and then again Spotify. You can leave reviews or ratings, and Apple Podcast reviews and ratings.
Yeah,
So
and I guess in order to be on the next one, you'll have to leave comments on this one.
yes,
So go for it. You'll have time for the next one.
hell yeah.
I'll collect
We'll
them.
see you in a month.
No.
No.
Well, I can't say no. But
True.
Hopefully no.
So yeah, feel free to comment, and I mean even during this little hiatus, you've done a pretty good job of responding to people.
Oh yeah, I'll
So,
respond. Yeah,
yeah.
of course. Yeah.
So if you guys ever have anything you want to say to us, it definitely does get to us
Yes.
with every comment you leave. So
Yep.
To the bit of banter,
Yes.
I've got a question for you, and this is something that you listeners and viewers can take into like a friend conversation, I suppose,
Yeah.
or maybe like an icebreaker or something on like a date. You might have to know the person a little bit, but
Okay.
if I've got a list of 6 names here, if any of these 6 people could come back in their prime and release a brand new album this year, who would you pick?
Okay.
So I listed Elton John, Tom Petty, Frank Sinatra, the Eagles, Whitney Houston, Billy Joel, or James Taylor.
I'm gonna say Whitney.
Whitney, just
Yeah.
because you think that would be like the
I
vibe
think
for you right
and
now.
I think she would be good at obviously you listed all those because I love all of those
Yes,
so
yeah.
much. But I love them because they're classic and that was the sound back then and I love all the old sound.
Yeah.
And I would want them to unless they came out with something now that sounded like it, but I feel like a lot of people now are kind of trying to stay relevant.
What
you know?
I guess maybe I didn't phrase the question properly though, but like in their prime, the music of their prime, if they released a whole new album of what that, your favorite album of theirs sounded like, who would you most want to hear a brand new album of? That would be
I'm sorry, I thought you meant
relevant
right
to what you
now.
love about them.
Oh, okay. Oh.
And you can only pick one. I feel like it's
I would still say Whitney.
okay.
Yeah.
Just
I love
okay.
all the other ones, but I think she's just got the range. She's got the pop. She can be serious. Like the other ones are pretty soulful and kind of have like a sound and
Yeah.
they stick to it.
Yep.
She could kind of do whatever, and we would probably have such a like range of songs on this
Right,
album.
and I mean, I feel like they're all pretty timeless, but
Yeah.
Whitney's voice is very like,
Yeah.
like not transformative, but
No,
kind
yeah.
of carries across different genres, like you're
Totally.
saying, and
No,
different
that's
emotions.
actually a really good question. That I like actually having to like sit there and think about it. That's yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Nice.
personally, I would be interested to have or hear a Billy Joel one, like brand new, because I've told you, like Billy Joel and Paul Simon, and I guess Elton John as well. Like there's a sound to their music that I can't really pinpoint like what kind of music it is.
Right.
You're like it's of that era,
Right.
and we just don't get that kind of like.
Yeah.
Would you even call it rock? I don't even. Billy Joel is kind of rockish,
Yeah.
somewhat, but
It was
yeah.
definitely like that 80s rock kind of
Yeah.
where it's not like Eagles.
Like rock.
It's
Yeah.
not AC/DC. It's not any of that. It's
Yeah,
its
and-
own thing for sure.
And I just feel like we've never heard anybody like that since.
I agree.
And so I would be interested to like one to hear what new music or how that would like affect me, you know.
Yeah.
But also like what other people's reaction would be like. What the?
I don't
the
think
fuck
anyone
is
would
this?
care.
No.
I know. Maybe just you and me and my dad. We'd be like,
True.
oh, cool.
Sweet, William.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that
Cool.
was a thought-provoking
Yeah,
question
I
that
like it.
everybody else could carry on to their family gatherings.
Yeah.
These end up. It's almost Labor Day, so
That's
at
true.
Labor Day
I always forget that that's a thing.
camping or whatever you people do, barbecues. Anyways, I think we're what like 10-ish minutes into this. So,
Something.
is there anything you want to talk about? Anything you want to discuss before we get into the case?
Is this where I give a teaser?
If you want to.
Okay. Because I actually wrote one this time for the first time in forever.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Go ahead.
There you go.
All right. So, as you're talking about that, I'm thinking like future Riley right now, because I'm going to be editing this, obviously. If you guys are listening, you didn't hear anything there because I put that at the beginning of the episode as an actual teaser because you're about to hear the episode now. So,
I thought about
welcome everybody. Here's the case, and Christian, take it away. Oh wait, nailed it.
I am going to give a graphic warning on this one because this one gets pretty bad. Descriptions of violence and torture. Kellyanne Bates was born on May 18, 1978, in Hattersley, England, UK, to parents Tommy and Margaret Bates. She was said to be extremely close to her family, and people who knew her described her as independent, confident, and mature for her age. Kellyanne was someone who loved helping others and loved children, so the part-time gig she had babysitting neighborhood children fit her perfectly. It was at one of these babysitting jobs when Kellyanne was 14 that she met a man named James Patterson, a man who was 45 and took a keen interest in the young babysitter. He offered to walk her home that day, and from then on, he began the process of grooming her. He started contacting her in secret behind her parents' back, knowing full well the parents would never approve of this, quote, relationship. A couple years later, when Kelly was 16, she had left school and James had convinced her to move in with him. Now, 16 is the legal age of consent in the UK and when you are done with school, so. This time, Kelly's family really couldn't do anything about it. This whole time, Kelly had been referring to James as an older boy and keeping him secret from her family. They all just assumed it was a boy around her own age that she had been seeing, that she just didn't introduce them to yet. But when they did finally meet James, Kelly's mother said, "The hairs on the back of my neck stood up." She stated that she tried to do anything she could to keep Kelly from leaving with him, and even said she had a strange urge to pick up a bread knife and stab him in the back as he walked out the door with her daughter.
I mean, I don't blame her. I feel like I'd be the same.
Like this, like parental,
protection.
Yeah, right. Because you don't see her walking out the door; you see him taking her out the door, basically, even though she's just walking.
He somehow at some point had obviously convinced her that this was okay. So.
Kelly had told her parents that he was in his mid-30s, but her mother knew instantly he was much older. He looked like shit. You'll see pictures of him,
Bingo.
And I put in here, I said, I feel like this is that really tough part of parenting where everything in you is screaming to run to your child. You just want to save them so bad from what you think or what you know is an obvious predator.
Yeah.
But when you fight too hard,
It just pushes them towards them even more.
But then do you also just do nothing? It's that
Right. I mean,
weird,
that's that fine balance
really
of
rock and a hard place on that one. What Kelly and her parents didn't know was that James had an extensive history of abuse towards the women in his life. 13 years prior to meeting Kelly Ann, James Patterson's wife divorced him because of his abusive behavior. Not long after his divorce, he started dating 20-year-old Tina Watson, who he regularly beat the hell out of, even when she was pregnant with his child. The final straw for Tina was when he tried to drown her while she was in the bathtub. It didn't take long for James to move on to an even younger girl, 15-year-old Wendy Moderstadt,
Jesus
who, of course, he beat the shit out of as well. He even tried to drown Wendy, holding her head underwater in the kitchen sink. And you'll notice this as a trend, the whole drowning thing.
Yeah, and he's not getting in trouble for any of this, it sounds like.
Yeah. In hindsight, it seems as if these women got off lucky compared to what was going to happen to Kellyanne. Within weeks of Kellyanne moving in with James, there were issues. The couple fought quite a bit, sometimes breaking up temporarily, with Kelly moving back home until the couple inevitably made up and then she would move back in. The times when she would be back home, Kelly's parents noticed that she was more withdrawn each time and not talkative like her normal self. Her clothes appeared as if she didn't wash them, and she looked like she hadn't been showering either, a just overall lack of care for herself. They said sometimes she would even just sit in a corner with her head down, just being quiet. Her parents grew so concerned that they called the authorities to intervene, but without proof of abuse or Kellyanne reaching out herself, the cops really couldn't do anything considering she was once again of legal age.
Yeah, and choosing to be there with him.
Exactly, yeah. Behind the scenes, James was actually using this against Kelly, telling her that her parents' concern was actually proof that they didn't approve of them and wanted to break them apart. Typical abuser manipulation,
I mean,
that
this
kind of
is
stuff.
exactly that.
Thank God it's a different time now. This is like 80s, 90s kind of, It's late 1995 when Kellyanne just never returns home. James's plan to isolate her from her family had finally worked, and from that point on, Kelly's family only heard from her a couple times a year, and strictly by phone. For a while on holidays and anniversaries, the families would receive postcards, but noticed it was not in Kelly's handwriting. James wasn't even letting her write to them. James had her right where he wanted her, vulnerable and completely alone. It had been a while since anyone in Kelly's family had heard from her, so her brother decided to drop by the house one day where her and James lived. James answered the door and said she couldn't come down because she wasn't feeling well. On another occasion, a worried neighbor asked James if Kelly was okay because he hadn't seen the girl in quite some time. She was only allowed to come to the upstairs window and wave at the neighbor, and then she disappeared back inside.
Of course.
So it seems at this point that she is still okay. I mean, you know what I mean. She's still
alive.
Physically there, yes. Yeah. The last time Kelly's parents actually spoke to her was March of 1996. It's April 16th, less than a month later, when James walks into a local police station and sits down with an officer, where he calmly and coldly tells them Kelly has drowned in the bath. When police show up to investigate the claim, they are shocked to find a scene that looks nothing like a simple drowning like they had thought.
Shocker.
This is like, just a little side note, I remember like listening, like I put on a few like mini documentaries about this and just kind of cleaned and like I kind of listened to a bunch of different ones, and you just obviously just gather like the similar information kind of thing, and then reading of course and all that, but I don't know, it didn't really like do anything, but then like today for some reason when I was going back over the notes and rewriting this, I'm like, it just felt gross. So I'm just gonna like warn you now, like this is kind of where like it starts amping up and stuff.
Okay.
You can skip ahead if you want, but this is pretty much going to be the rest of it's going to be gross. So
okay.
Just saying, whoever's listening. Police found blood in every room of the house, and her body was covered in bizarre and terrible injuries. Definitely nothing consisting with the drowning. Immediately, police take James into custody, and then shortly after, they go notify Kelly's parents. When Kelly's mom came to the door, she knew. She beat them to the punch with, "He's killed her." Kelly's body was taken to be examined, and what they found was so far beyond what anybody could imagine. The timeline is a bit tricky because Kelly was so isolated, but based on the findings, the examiner said that the injuries he found were shown to happen about 4 weeks prior and leading up to the subsequent murder. Her body had over 150 separate injuries, and they were all in various states of healing. Obviously, if you guys can't read into that, it just means that they happen over a period of time.
Yeah,
you know?
this isn't all just happened
Yeah.
on the night of the murder.
Yeah, and they're just piling one on another trying to heal. Her eyebrows, nose, lips, ears, mouth, and genitals were all mutilated. The stab wounds were found all over her, including the inside of her mouth. Her whole body was covered in stab wounds, in fact, all found to have come from scissors, knives, and even forks.
Jesus.
She was found to have wounds coming from gardening tools as well, like shears and pruning clippers. Working our way down the body, her bottom and her legs had scalding marks, most likely from boiling water. Not only this, but a burn mark coming from a clothes iron was found on her as well. On top of this, part of her scalp had been ripped away, and she had been starved in the weeks leading up to this death, losing about 44 pounds. And when she's already so small, that's quite a bit. Not only starved, but she hadn't had water for days and days and days leading up to this as well. And it doesn't stop here. The bones in her hands and her kneecaps were found to have been shattered with a blunt object, along with one of her arms being fractured. And if there's anything to make it worse, at least in my head, it's the thought that having all of this done to her, she only had one arm to protect herself.
Right.
And it was found that she was restrained as well. So, like, she's just completely defensive. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. She can't even hold an arm up to, like, stop it. For the last round of awful descriptions, you guys, Kelly's body was found to have restraint marks. They suspect that she was kept tied to the radiator in the home, either tied by her hair or also being being shoved beneath the floorboards as well, in between beatings. And for the final and disgusting awful bit, Kelly's eyes had been gouged out. The examiner confirmed that this did not happen after death. They can't determine exactly when, but they said it could have been anywhere from 5 days to 3 weeks before her death. Kellyanne had to live with no eyes for days, all while trying to heal from stab wounds and burn marks. To make matters worse, extreme graphic warning, they found stab wounds inside the eye sockets. And yeah, she was alive for that as well. Her death finally came when he dragged her into the bathroom, where he beat her in the head with a shower attachment until she fell unconscious, and he let her drown in the water. And in some twisted way, I can't help but think this was a relief for her. It's finally over.
Yeah.
She was probably praying for this moment that entire time.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, fingers crossed, like her brain shut off.
Yeah.
Weeks prior to this, so
you
she
hear
never
about that in these
experienced
cases, right? Yeah. At some point, I don't know how much more you can feel. Go ahead.
No, I'm gonna let you continue. I'll ask questions.
Yeah.
At the end.
As you can imagine, there's no getting around this one. There was no, like, oh, a stranger broke in and for weeks tortured her and I never saw him. Like, there's really no way to explain this away. James had no way out of this one. As the trial began, James had nowhere to hide, but that didn't stop him from trying to get out of bits and parts of it. James tried to claim some of the injuries were self-inflicted. Like, somehow that was actually going to work.
Yeah. Maybe she was trying to kill herself at some point.
Yeah. He was stating, though.
Capable.
Right. Yeah. He was stating that he would beat her, but it wouldn't be bad. And then she would go off into another room and hurt herself further to make it look worse than it was.
Right. Yeah.
So he's saying, like, I'm kind of guilty. Like, kind of. When he asked why he removed her eyes, he stated, she dared me to.
Did she double dog dare him too? Is a question. A single dare, you can say no, but if she double dog dared him, there's no going back.
No surprise, the jury found him guilty as fuck for the torture and murder of Kellyanne. It took them less than an hour. During the trial, pictures of Kellyanne's body were shown so people could see the true severity of the crime.
Jeez.
It's said that every single member of the jury required counseling after seeing the images.
Yeah.
He was sentenced to a minimum of 20 years with the recommendation to never be released. I'm not sure if this was because of the leniency on the crimes back then or what, but I'm not really sure. But to me, 20 years doesn't seem like a lot. But that doesn't mean you get out kind of thing.
20 years to life.
It's a minimum kind of thing.
I think we've had this conversation before where after 20 years, maybe eligible for parole. But
right.
God forbid.
But I mean, there were so many different psychologists and stuff that interviewed him and found he shouldn't be getting out. Which I feel like sometimes you don't really hear about that. You hear psychologists kind of be like, yeah, maybe he could do with some rehab or whatever.
Right.
But in this
we
case,
can
they were all
rehabilitate him.
No. Yeah, so a psychologist diagnosed him as a sadistic psychopath with a paranoid personality disorder, deemed to always be a danger to women. And that's where it is.
I am happy to hear that.
Yeah.
I can only... He's still in jail.
Yeah.
I was hoping it wasn't going to go the situation or the way of, well, she died via drowning, and maybe he didn't drown her per se, but they were gonna. I'm happy to hear he got
how they
convicted.
do technicality kind of thing?
Yeah, technically he didn't drown her. She just accidentally died in a bathtub or something while taking a bath. But she was also unconscious because of the shit that he did to her.
Yeah, right.
So I
and
didn't
also,
actually kill her, but
how do you get out of all those injuries too?
Yeah, exactly. Well,
a scalp
she
is
did it to
missing. Her scalp is missing, and she has no eyeballs.
What in the
and her arm's
world has to be wrong with you? It's we've talked about this before, and we kind of when we talked about your classmate that beheaded his mom.
Yeah.
Right. You say in hindsight, you kind of just know, or you're not surprised per se.
Yeah, I'm not surprised he did something.
I mean, no one would ever be like, he's gonna do this. Right. But you're like, it's shocking, but you could
not
almost
all
see
the way.
Yeah. It's sad when the first thing her mom predicts is he killed her.
Yeah.
And again, what could you do in that situation where you're just not in control?
Yeah.
You know, I guess that's
also,
where
too, it doesn't. I mean, they said in some of the articles that she was showing up to the house. When they would get in fights, she would temporarily move back in, whether it was for a week or something. And she would have injuries, but they were never this severe. They were some marks and bruises and stuff, but she was always managed to explain it away, is what they said. And I don't know. It sounds like they tried. I'm not going to sit here and talk shit about the parents. I'm sure they do that every day. They beat themselves up for this, that they should have done
fighting
more.
Harder.
But it sounds like they did try at some point and nothing came of it. So maybe they just thought it was pointless.
Yeah.
And then when you don't hear from her or see her, you don't have proof she's showing up with black eyes and broken ribs, and you just don't see anything. So you just hope she's okay.
Yeah. You're hoping that if anything severe was going on, that she would reach out despite the differences in opinions.
Yeah. But when you start grooming someone at 14, you're completely brainwashed.
What your parents taught you isn't what you know to be true, or
and that's exactly why he's disgusting, and he went after younger and younger girls.
Yeah,
each time.
I wonder what made him
some Andrew Tate motherfucker.
Whoa, we going there. I agree, 100% actually. What do you think made him snap though?
I don't know. I mean, he had been beating her up and stuff. I don't know what made it go this
far. Yeah, I mean, and then
I don't know
to
what
think
it was.
that first off, the name James Patterson, that's a super duper famous author for right? Not that James Patterson.
No, oh my God.
Get that out your minds. I don't know if I was the only one thinking that.
No.
But to know that there was two people before her too, that
Escaped.
yeah,
Yeah.
not just escaped, but as like police officers, you got to be wondering like, how did we miss this?
Right.
You know, where or why wasn't if he was never reported, if you're
Right.
those women, you know,
And that's also kind of part of it too. Is like when you have these younger people like this and they get out of it,
they're
think,
almost as happy to be out of
I
it.
know. That's exactly right. I think they're like just thrilled to be gone and probably less inclined to say something because they probably feel like, well, I stayed, I did it to myself. Like,
Well,
you know,
yeah, I mean, you are talking
plus,
in the 90s. This is a
Yeah.
lot. That's where, you know, a lot of people with some good reasoning will bash on the quote unquote Me Too movement.
yeah.
But a lot of that stuff that happened in the early 90s and was brought up, you know, a few years ago during
Yeah.
that movement was in that time frame because, like you said, the women felt like it was their fault
Yeah.
as to whatever
or
had
they were
happened
told
to
it
them.
was their fault, even
Yeah,
though they
it
tried,
just the
or
time
it
of
was ignored.
the way
I
of
mean,
the times,
Yeah.
and yeah, they're just happy that they're able to carry on with their life. So
Plus, you know, he probably isolated those girls too. They probably didn't have any family or anything. They probably didn't feel like anyone was on their side. So they
Yeah.
just decided, I'm just glad I'm fucking gone.
exactly,
Especially one of
yeah.
them had his kids, so she was probably just thrilled to make it out alive with the child in her life.
I could not imagine that.
Yeah.
Jesus, to fucking scoop the eyeballs out.
I know.
And then stab inside the eyeball wounds,
and
then
stab
the fork,
inside your mouth.
yeah, with the forks too, and the
Yeah.
shears and the gardening tools. Like, I mean, we talk about it all the time. Overkill is clearly a sign of somebody, you know,
Yeah.
personal
Right.
is doing this typically, and it makes me wonder what made him snap to that point, and you know,
Yeah.
maybe it was, you know, maybe it got to a point where she did decide, you know, I'm gonna leave just like the rest of these other girls,
Also,
and he said
too.
not this time.
Yeah. Also, too. I'll make this quick. If you think about it, I mean, there was a point where he couldn't let her go. You know.
Right, too many wounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, point of
like-
no return. Like you
Yeah.
either quote unquote finish the job, or
Yeah.
you hope that things get better between the two of you and you can move past this.
And
But
I'm
I just
not
don't know.
sure. Maybe it's a cockiness and an arrogance thing. Why he even went to the cops? I feel like somebody like
I was
that would
gonna
just
ask
get
you
rid
that.
of
Why
it.
would somebody
or
report
her? I'm
that?
sorry. Get rid of her. You know, because I think he probably thought he could get away with it. He's
Yeah.
been abusing people.
Yeah,
He's
that's
been
what-
attempting to drown girls, and he's gotten away with it.
I meant to ask for the clarification. For some reason, I thought you said that her brother reported for like a wellness check on her. But then I was like, no, that was like prior to all of this. They were just hoping that she was okay.
Yeah, he stopped by randomly to
Right.
say hi, and she couldn't come to the door. And then a neighbor
Yeah,
asked if she was fine.
And at that point, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, he is a psychopath in that sense,
Yeah.
where it's like you give yourself up and
He probably honestly thought he would get away with
Yeah.
it. Like, he must have really thought police were just going to show up and ignore the scalping
Everything. Yeah.
and the eyeballs and just look past him like, yeah, he's good. Looks like a drowning to me.
he really thought it all through.
Whatever. I mean, I'm glad, obviously.
Yeah, I was gonna say we
This
feel, I feel
easily
like we
could have
always-
been like one of those, they don't have any evidence because she quote unquote disappeared. He could
yep.
have been like, yeah, she ran away or whatever. And it easily
And
could
no
have
one
gone
would know.
unsolved. Yeah.
Yeah, no one would ever know
If
until
they ignored it now when there's witnesses and shit, they would have never even
Yeah.
bothered trying to find her if she
Jeez.
ran away, But anyway, so yeah.
Fuck you, James Patterson.
So kind of not a
I've
short case per se, but kind of.
Never
'cause,
heard that
like,
one though.
I know. Once I heard it, I'm like, I feel like I heard it maybe once years ago,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm like, this one is like, like I said before,
Disgusting.
yeah, like I was like kind of getting sick in the stomach. I was like,
gruesome
dude, the
and-
eyes and shit, like, oh my God.
All right. Well, as we do with every episode, I
Yeah.
want to say thank you for bringing that to light.
Yes.
Yeah, not the most
No.
enjoyable one for dinner for those of
Yeah.
you eating your chickpea soup or whatever you're eating out there. I don't know. If you guys enjoyed it, please again leave a rating on Spotify or a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, comments, we'll read it on the next one.
And yeah, feel free, follow us on True Crime Banter on Instagram and get us to that 200 subscriber milestone. We're making our way downtown.
Yep.
Yep, growing fast.
Yep.
Faces past.
And
Pass.
homebound.
Yes, homeward bound. All right, well, yeah, thank you everybody for listening. Christian, thank you for the case once again. And this has been the True Crime Banter podcast. We will hopefully be talking to you soon.
Catch on the flippity flip.
Adios.